Good morning and welcome back to Innsbruck. I'm Charlie Bosco. Got Mike Langley alongside me for the rest of this Youth World Championships in Innsbruck. And what a packed schedule we've got for you today. First up, we've got the Youth B semi-finals we're about to bring you. Then we have the Junior semi-finals and then the Youth B final tonight. And then tomorrow, yet another packed schedule of league climbing. And Mike, you've just arrived here at the Cletter Centrum. First impressions?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been here for about 2 hours and I feel like I've not really seen any of the venue yet. It's absolutely massive, and the competition venue itself, the facilities are absolutely world class. And some of the other work I do is climbing wall design, and this place just surpasses everything I've seen. And yeah, the perfect place for the Youth World Championships.
Surpasses everything you've seen apart from the walls you've built, of course. But just to remind you, the age categories we have here, this is Youth B we've got first up this morning. This is the youngest age category we have represented in Innsbruck, as climbers born in 2002 or 2003. Juniors who we've got later is climbers born in 1998 or 99, that's the oldest category. And then the Youth A who are in action tomorrow is the middle age group, 2001 and 2000. Let's have a look at the starters for today's semi-final. As ever, we've got 26 men, 26 women. Women up first on our start list. There is the outdoor competition wall here in Innsbruck. Absolutely vast. There we can see it. Well, diverse list of starters here in Innsbruck. We've seen, particularly in the bouldering and the seniors, we've had a domination of Japanese athletes, but a good spread of nationalities here. Bodes well. A few of those names might be familiar to you if you've been watching our coverage all week. We'd see that Indiana Chapman, she had a good day in the bouldering, 4th in the bouldering for her earlier on in the week. She will be out 18th. Same rules as in the World Cup, so climbers are in reverse order, so you qualify first out the qualifiers, you climb last in the semis. And I mentioned about Japan dominating, they're certainly dominating the top end of the order here. Futaba Ito, of course, crowned bouldering champion earlier on this week. Let's have a look at the men. And once again, good spread of nationalities. Connor Herson of the USA, looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Ditto Anthony Letick. Leto of the Netherlands. Keep an eye out for him. He had a good day in the bouldering as well. And then we can see it further down the order. David Marco Colombo. Again, good bouldering campaign for him. Ditto Ray Kawamata down in 19th. And the same could be said of Thomas Podlan and Ryohei Nakui and Hidemasa Nishida. So plenty of action to come, and as I say, this is Youth B, the youngest group of climbers. It's climbers born in 2002 or 2003.
So it's going to be those climbers on those start lists that start the campaign here in the Youth B semi-finals. It's going to be the men on the yellow route on the right-hand side of the wall and the women on the left as we look at it. As always here in Innsbruck, and that seems to be the theme throughout this huge centre here, the National Austrian Federation Centre that built brand new, just opened just a few months ago. Volumes, volumes and more volumes. The route setters really have got the biggest bag of toys they could possibly ever need for setting these routes. And those routes on the wall there, obviously there's 2 routes that we're going to be using now, but the routes are on the wall for later on. We've got the junior semi-finals coming up after this one. And we have a final later on tonight. These climbers will be competing again later on. Going to get these 26 down to the final selection.
Yep, same as World Cup rules. 8 climbers will go through from the 26, and then, as we mentioned, we've got a very quick break. It's probably likely to be around 15 minutes, pretty much long enough for them to quickly sweep away a bit of the chalk, let the juniors check out their semi-final routes, and then we'll be swiftly on with the semi-final. So the best part of 4.5, 5 hours of junior league climbing for you. And one of the most exciting elements of this Youth World Championship is that a lot of these climbers, you may not know the names. Already they're becoming familiar if you watch our bouldering coverage, but you are likely to hear a lot more from them, particularly the Youth A and the juniors over the next few years.
You know, it is very cliche to say this is the future, but it genuinely is. And just watching some of the athletes warming up in the isolation zone, these are just incredible athletes already, and they've got a few years to go until they make it to the seniors, but this is the real path that gets you into the seniors, and you're starting to see, with facilities like this, the climbers really coming into the seniors and looking incredibly strong as soon as they get there. Years gone by, it used to be, it takes you a few years to get up and running in the seniors until you start matching some of the other athletes, but now these guys are just, they're such rounded competitors already, and here we go to start the competition.
Yeah, Jessica Buchanan of the USA is out, and it's a good point you might make, Mike. It's been quite humbling actually being at the Kletterzentrum here in Innsbruck. You have all these young crushers, and you kind of swagger into the wall and think, yeah, I've been climbing a while, I can look after myself, and then there's 50 14-year-olds, all of whom are considerably better than you. Fortunately for me, I blew my finger out climbing yesterday, so I'm got an amazing excuse not to be blown away by 13 and 14-year-olds for the rest of the week like I was in the first half.
And one of the things that makes these climbers so good these days is facilities like this, like we keep mentioning, but also the route setting and the holds that they have on to offer. The route setters here throughout this week, for over the past, this is a 10-day event, have just put in as much effort as they would with the senior competition. That's really great to see. A huge team of route setters, a huge team of organisers, just the staggering size, and this is the venue for next year's Senior World Championships, and you really get the feeling that they're preparing themselves for that.
Let's have a look, Jessica. First, good look at the women's route. It's a relatively standard shaped wall, no huge volumes like we see in Chamonix. It gradually steepens and then gradually eases off towards the top. Quite a complicated wall shape here in Innsbruck. As Mike mentioned, we will have the Senior World Championships here next year. Meanwhile, Johannes Hofher, another man that had a good bouldering campaign, is out on the men's competition, bottom right. Women on the left, men on the right, and that's how it is when you look at the wall here in Innsbruck. The women have actually got a much steeper profile, a much steeper section of the wall for their route than the men. Men's is pretty much uniform, overhanging around 15 degrees all the way before easing off. The women go, it gradually steepens until pretty much the last 5 meters of the route, and even that is overhanging, just not quite as overhanging as what preceded it.
You can see here from the American climber, Jessica on the left, this is the real style for the routes for these young climbers. Obviously the reach is a true indicator, a true level of importance in route setting, and you see lots of little moves, and she's really firing between them, not taking any rest really between the holds, really keeping the pace going. She's got 52 moves to get through here, and yeah, she's really firing. Oh, brilliant move there, just as we lose Johannes from Austria on the right hand side of your screen, the first climber out. Lost him relatively early, and also with Jessica, and that was a good fight, and you could really see the pace that she was having to use there shows that how difficult this route is going to be. Lots of moves, but a lot of holds close together.
There is our wall here in Innsbruck, and we've been blessed with decent weather at last. It's been pretty horrendous for much of the first half of the competition, but finally picking up, and we are expecting today and tomorrow and probably Saturday to stay good. Of course, come the weekend we have the combined format, the Olympic format, something I know a lot of people are looking forward to see. It kind of makes the Olympics feel very real all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's going to be the first time that we've seen a triple event with the IFSC Olympic Federation category, the way that it's all been set up ready for the Olympics, so it's going to be really, really exciting. So do tune in for that this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, as the American joins us, Anthony Lesick.
Oceana McKenzie will be out of Australia. There she is.
Good local support from the Australians here. Been here all week, like most of the athletes. I was just talking to one of the GB coaches, saying that their hotel bill for the squad has been £25,000 just for the hotel bill for 10 days. So incredible amount of finances and effort that goes into putting these events on, and for the squads to be here. They've been here the whole time, and yeah, it's what's really interesting. Just the amount of training they're doing between the rounds. All the athletes who've been knocked out in the rounds, everybody's in here training. So it's a real centre of excellence.
And well, that's what 7-star hotels cost. Unfortunately, they don't come cheap. the Burj Al Sharif or wherever they're staying. Now, just to give you some idea as well of what's been invested here in this centre here in Innsbruck, the amount of money spent on holes, I'm told, goes into 7 figures in euros. It's been a vast investment from Team Austria. Time will tell whether it pays off in time for 2020. It's less than 3 years away, somewhat scarily enough, but we shall see. But as you mentioned, Mike, all the teams enjoy making the most of the facilities.
Just as we lose Anthony Lessig then from Team USA, really disappointment on his face as he comes down and looks up to the top of the route, wondering what could have been. That is really, really disappointing. Just head down. Gives an opportunity to concentrate in Oceana McKenzie then on the left-hand side of the wall. It is an all-white wall here, and you can see there on the camera, he picks out the volumes and the holds quite nicely. Very bright here. Nice, perfect weather for competition climbing. Not too hot, not too cold, and definitely not raining as you saw earlier on in the week, and that's the major benefit.
So Oceana McKenzie, freshman 15th in the bouldering. Something of an all-rounder, and you might be able to hear that Team Australia, who are well represented, giving plenty of encouragement. Just ran into Campbell Harrison inside, who's been joining us in the commentary box plenty, and he's now down the front of the wall. Oceana, you can see the fatigue beginning to kick in. She is actually at the point of the wall where it just begins to ease off slightly. The next panel above, which to give you some idea is 2 quick draws further on, it really does kick back. So she'll clip the next quick draw, the one after that. She'll get a slight change in angle, but it's still overhanging, and she is having to fight here. She looks composed though. You can see she's getting tired just from the nature of her movements, but found a good spot to compose herself.
She looks tired, but she's managed to compose herself. Like you say, Charlie, you can see the concentrate on the face. You can see the cheeks starting to blow out. Looking up, looking for all of the options. Quite a complicated section here, especially on the feet. Went for the heel hook, but it just slipped off. That was a pretty good burn about halfway up the route. It's interesting. Team Australia liked it anyway. Some good smiles all around from the guys in the crowd. Looking up, looking for all of the options. Quite a complicated section off the right heel. On the feet. Slips in the left heel. Went for the heel hook, but it just slipped off. Kind of options, lots of different options there for the feet. It looks like she's got a bit looking up, looking for all of them. Let's have a. We're just going to have another look, but we're going to turn our attention to the Swiss athlete. It's Tim Buscher.
Switzerland, relative to their population size, have a very successful climbing team. Of course, got the reigning world champion in Petra Klingler, and they've also got a lot of excited climbers coming through in the Youth World Championships. They've had a good championship so far. Tim Bucher, third out here in Innsbruck on this lovely sunny morning.
So far on this route, then we've not seen much progress from the previous 2 athletes. But we have got 26 to go through, and we're starting with the lowest qualifiers from the qualification round yesterday.
Mona Jenvine of Austria is out. She's bottom right of your screen. She was just behind Oceana McKenzie in the bouldering, 16th. So Tim, around halfway up this men's route, climbing at quite a pace so far.
It's clever climbing there as well, managing to get quite high up between the 2 quick draws to get 2 at once. Quick draws here are actually relatively closely placed compared to a senior World Cup. I don't think that's intentional, but that's just the way that the wall has been designed. As always, the quick draws spread out in distance as high you get up on the wall, and that means sometimes you can clip multiple quick draws at the same time. Efficient use of your energy.
Now he pauses. We saw in Arco about 10 days ago that we did have a lot of climbers timing out, and time being an issue. Unlikely to be for Tim. He's climbing very fast. Mona Jenvine, meanwhile, around a quarter of the way up the wall. There we go. Keep an eye bottom right of your screen. You can begin to get a good idea of the profile of the wall here in Innsbruck. As Mike mentioned, the Senior World Championships will be here next year. They're not actually using this same venue. The Kletterzentrum, I believe, will be in the Olympia Halle, which is the big arena in Innsbruck. But some of this will be used perhaps for warm-ups and qualification. Not confirmed just yet. But we will be back here in a year from now for the seniors.
Oh, Tim just blows out. I was just about to say that he came third in the European Youth Club in Mitterdorf, so he potentially would have been expecting a better result here this week. So it's a shame for the Swiss athletes.
Ilian Sharif of France will be next out onto the men's route as we watch Mona. Climbed well in the bouldering. Being an all-rounder increasingly important as the Olympics looms, as we mentioned. And we will be having the combined format. More about that once we get into the finals of these lead competitions. We can start to narrow down which athletes will be participating. We will talk more about the combined format. First thing for these climbers though, make the finals as ever in a World Cup. Same rules apply here. 8 climbers through in the men and 8 in the women. And Mona a much slower pace of climbing than we saw from Oceana Mackenzie.
Yeah, she's got quite a long way to reach that high point with Oceana, so that's why Team Australia were pretty pleased when she came down from the wall. Can't help but think at this early stage that Oceana Mackenzie's burn just before Mona here was actually a pretty decent high point. Time's going to tell how that fares later on, but Mona just struggling a little bit here. Like say Charlie said, struggling with the pace a little bit. So many holds on this route to cater for the different height athletes. Mona's definitely one of the higher ones, the taller ones I should say, in the category. Just struggling with the clip now.
Yeah, it's such a physical position she's trying to hold now. She's just at the point where the angle begins to change, but just took perhaps a little too long getting there. And then there is Ilian Sharif for France.
With routes of this difficulty, obviously the semi-final route tends to be the hardest route of the 3 rounds, qualification, semis and final. This is really where they're looking for the separation. If you make any mistake, it generally puts you in a very bad position, just because you see there with Mona, she just had an issue with the clip. The clip started swinging around in the wind a little bit, and yeah, really put her off and put her in big trouble.
Ilian Sharif, like with so many of the French climbers we've seen in the men's side of this Youth World Championship, going for the hair dye bottle before coming to the wall. Whatever they're doing, it seems to have worked. They've had a decent Youth World Championship so far, France.
I think France, along with Austria, is one of those nations that are really pushing all the way through the age categories and focusing from the very beginning of your climbing career all the way through to the seniors. You see the French athlete now is really struggling. The screams of Ali are coming from behind him. He's in big trouble here. Oh, sticks it again. Shows a vast amount of power and endurance. You can see there just a thumb catch underneath that volume. The fruit setters have put that on just to help pull you in a bit, make the volume a bit better. But that was a really good fight, though. You have to hand it to him. He kept going even though he was in big trouble. And yeah, I think the French will be relatively pleased with that performance. But yeah, once again, not seeing anybody close to the top of the route here, but that's pretty much the standard form for this stage in the competition.
Elizabeth Ladschneider is out from Italy. Out next, it will be Connor Herson of the United States on the men's route. So, lower section of the women's route gets steep pretty much straight away. Not a huge amount in terms of warm-up moves, either to physically get you into it or psychologically. You're pretty much into big, committing physical moves early on. 360 volumes, you can see there those big blue ones dominating the women's route.
She has had some pretty decent results this year. 9th in the European Youth Cup and 16th, another European Youth Cup in Uster.
As I've been saying all week here in Innsbruck, keep an ear out for these climbers. You might not know them now, but you will very soon.
Just taking the opportunity then to step down. That's a pretty good sequence she used there. She went back down to find the rest. Had to work hard through this upper steep section though. Seen a lot of the athletes on this section now have an opportunity to rest, but just how bad those holds are. Managing to chalk up on some pretty terrible slopers, so impressive performance here from Elizabeth already.
Just to keep you up to date with the scores as ever in league climbing, the aim of the game is to get as high as you can, reach the highest hold you can, and Oceana Mackenzie currently leading the way for the women, 36 plus for her, the current high point. In the men's competition, Tim Buch of Switzerland currently sharing the lead with Johannes Hofherr of Austria, 34 plus. And as you see, there's Conor Herson out on the men's route now.
It's quite interesting looking at Conor during the observational period, because he's definitely the smallest athlete in both the male and the female crest. He's absolutely tiny. This is what the route setters are up against. This is what they've got a route set for, the difference in height. And yeah, Conor is so small, but yeah, impressive amounts of power to go with it.
Well, it's something we've seen in the senior lead World Cups as well, as we lose Elizabeth.
Yeah, we lost Elizabeth there in a very similar position as we lost the Austrian athlete Mona.
Yeah, I was saying we've seen this in senior World Cups. Laura Gora beginning to break through, taking on taller climbers. It's a challenge at all levels, but never more so than in youth competitions. Conor so far, though, having to work, but going pretty well. Past the third height on the wall.
Got himself tucked into a nice position to rest there, but it is only a one-handed rest. Conor then's going to have to use every skill in his toolbox to get up this route. You know, height is going to be a disadvantage for him compared to some of the other athletes, but he would have been well used to that growing up and competing throughout the years. You know, competing for years, even though he's only 14 or 15 years old. We'll have to check his age exactly, but yeah, for Conor, he'll be well used to having to deal with that, being more dynamic or finding alternative solutions where others might just be able to reach. You're going to have he's a real thinker. You can see him looking for all the different options. Fires up nicely then, he's got bags of power.
Yeah, very composed at this stage. Looking in complete control. He's now entering a section of the men's route. It's something of a groove almost. Over to the left where you can see that Climbers Paradise sign. It's something of a groove, but the route setters somewhat cruelly take you out to the right away from it, so you can't get a bridge, you can't really get a rest as you might hope. But as I say, you can't quite there, you can see it better from that angle. It's a bit of a groove, but you only get to look at it. No chance for a rest, unfortunately. Conor, meanwhile.
So Conor surpasses the previous athletes where they fell, and he may be small, but he's making use of those small hands, and that's one thing that route setters really have to watch out for is with these young athletes, is the size of the hands. And to them, you know, a crimp for a larger, fully grown route setter is an absolute jug for some of these guys. So that's why they employ a lot of the tactics of putting the volumes on, a lot more open-handed pinches where the younger climbers struggle, and that's a good way of them gauging the level, because gauging the level for route setting for these young athletes is so difficult, because they can really hold on to a lot of really bad holds where senior climbers would struggle and fit into positions that the route setters just can't.
Charlene Tilborg of Belgium is out, bottom right of your screen. We'll concentrate on Conor though.
Conor's putting in a great fight. Oh, just as we say that, we lose him. Hands go over the head. He's really disappointing there, but that was a pretty good burn there.
Yeah, hopefully we can see that again actually, because looked to me like he just rushed that move slightly. Looked as if he was in control up to that stage. Let's see if we can find a replay.
Let's have a look what happened then. He was working really hard up to this point. And look, you could see he was gassed. You could see the arms wobbling a bit, and he came up short. I think he was just powered out at that stage, but that was a good burn. That was 2/3 of the way up the route. It's going to put him into a second position or a joint first on 34 plus. So it's 3 athletes currently sitting 34 plus. So yeah, good effort from the, I was going to say the big man, the big small man.
We've seen, we saw in Arco in the semi-finals, for example, about 10 days ago, when you can get a stopper move in the riddle of a lead route. Hopefully we don't have that in the men's competition today, and we will see climbers breaking through that 34 plus, but as it stands, 4 climbers tied on that score in the men's competition. Over in the women's, Oceana McKenzie still leading the way, 36 plus for her. On to our 5th climber in the women's competition, and our 6th climber in the men's.
This is actually quite a cool sequence. This is where we saw It was Elizabeth, the previous athlete, went up to this next hold and then dropped back down to where her foot currently is on the left foot. So let's see what Charlene does here then. So this is where she match feet and step down. Looks for the different options. Yeah, she goes straight up with the left foot.
Giorgio Tomatis out on the men's route.
So a slightly different sequence here from the Belgium athlete on the left-hand side of the wall.
She pauses.
You can just see her controlling her breathing there, really trying to stay relaxed. Just trying to take it all in a stride. I think psychologically, the more you just control your breathing, keep it steady, just keeps the mind focused, and hopefully it keeps the pump at bay. Doesn't mean you over grip on the holds. You can see her checking the watch there, checking the time, just taking it kind of all as a part of a day's work, trying to not treat it as a World Championships semi-finals, treat it as a training route. Hopefully that mentality will get her through this next section and higher up on the wall. Just trying to stay relaxed.
Don't forget, you can get in touch like you can on senior events. We have a new hashtag though, listen up carefully, IFSC YWCH Youth World Championship. If you'd like to get in touch on Twitter, give us a shout.
So Charlene, and this is where we lost the previous couple of athletes. She's looking to compose at the moment, and just on the bottom right of your screen there, Giorgio drops early, couldn't match the 34 plus that we saw Connor getting. Really impressive performance so far from Charlene. She's looking so composed. Quite a long way to go to get towards Oceana's high point now.
Yeah, Leto Cave of the Netherlands will be out next. He had a really good bouldering semi-final. Looked for all the world like he might make the final at one stage, ended up 9th. He'll be out next on the men's route. Charlene, meanwhile, on the women's route, heading towards Oceana's high point, but it really gets extremely physical here. Hard to rest after this point.
Just stalls out. Oh, this is where we saw Oceana make a really impressive, powerful move up with the left hand. Can she get it? She's really struggling with all the foot options here. Opts to go with the right hand and loses her. You could really see she was in big trouble there for a minute. Just stalled out, didn't know what to do with her feet. I was obviously tired at that point as well. Didn't have much spare power left. So that's the end of the semi-finals for Charlene. Let's just have another look. You can see the way she was pumping the hands, pumping the feet. Opted to go with the right hand. It's going to be interesting to see later on what sequence some of the athletes start to use through that section.
So here's Leto, as I say, in the bouldering semis, put up an amazing fight, stormed out of the blocks early on in that semi-final, and then there was a technical incident with him later on, and he had to try the fourth boulder again, and had quite an eventful semi-final in the bouldering, but just missed out in the final. 9th place for him, but caught quite a few people's eyes who I was chatting to afterwards. Again, even by the standards of Junior B, relatively short but super powerful, a really determined competitor. There's a lot of people looking forward to seeing him climb again. We've got something of a who's who of world climbing in the audience right now. Mike, you were fairly starstruck earlier on.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased to bump into Yuji Uriyama just as I walked into the venue. Yeah, an absolute legend in the game, competition, climber, outdoor, you know, just a legend on the rock. And for him just to be helping out with Team Japan must be incredible to have someone like Yuji just as a support team. Yeah, incredible. And he was saying what he thought of the venue. He said, yeah, we need one of these in Japan. Managed to get an autograph though, so pretty happy with that.
Can't believe he didn't want your autograph, but okay. Maybe he just didn't recognise you without your shirt on, I don't know. Maybe he was a little starstruck himself. Meanwhile, Leto on the men's route. Out on the women's route, by the way, got Joël Niederberger. Luce Duardi, excuse me, I'm one step ahead of myself. Luce Duardi of France. She is bottom right. Leto is main screen. And this is the section I mentioned earlier where you're heading into a groove and then just begin to head out right through a series of small crimps around this triangular volume. and then out onto a series of bigger yellow volumes.
Well, Leto definitely displayed his bouldering power there. I thought he was in a bit of trouble as he hit the right-hand hold, but he's managed to cut his feet as he hit the hold and stick it, which was really impressive. Might have burnt a lot of energy though. Oh, and not quite sure what happened there. He just seemed to burn out really, really quickly and just dropped off.
Yeah, the way he did that move, that compression method, was pretty physical way of doing it. It looked a tough way, and it burns him. We'll confirm his score in just a second, though. Oceana Mackenzie still leading the way in the women's competition, and still a 3-way tie on 34 plus in the men's. Duardi of France out now. She was 12th in the bouldering earlier this week. As I've mentioned a couple of times, we do have the Olympic combined format for all the age groups at the weekend.
We do, and that's what we're starting to see, these young athletes starting to concentrate. The times are past where climbers used to be good at boulder or speed or lead as an individual discipline, but now they're really focusing on 2 or 3 disciplines. And someone like Luce, who's actually won a European Youth Cup in bouldering already this year, and here she is in the semi-final of a lead competition. So Team France definitely focusing on the multi-disciplines, and yeah, really looking forward to that Olympic combined event later on this weekend.
Victor Bouldering of Canada is out bottom right of your screen.
Here we go, then Luce goes up with a left hand. That's the sequence that the previous athlete struggled with. She's looking a bit tired, she's shaking in the right hand, gets a completely bent arm clip. That's going to suck a lot of power. Fights really nicely up with the left hand then, getting close to a high point here. We saw Oceana getting the next couple of moves and getting the left foot out. It's that really large foothold out on the left of rep.
Yeah, as you say, you can see the fatigue beginning to kick in. That clip, the one before that, was from a really awkward position, but she seems to somehow have recovered a bit of energy. It's that section of the route, I wouldn't quite describe it as a rest, but it's certainly a slightly easier move, but it really kicks in again here. That is where the angle changes though. She has got easier angle terrain above her. She just needs to keep fighting through that section. She's onto the blue volumes on the very top section of this Innsbruck wall, and her attempt ends there. Superb effort. We will update the scores as it comes through.
That was a great fight, and that will be a new high point from the French athlete Luce Duardi. That was a really, really good fight, and I thought she was going to go just as we lost Oceana on the left foot. This is the end of her fight. Really starting to grit the teeth there. See the arms shaking, firing into an underscore. Oh, you just see the fingers peeling off one by one. That was a great replay.
Yeah, it was a bit of a heartbreaker. The index finger came off, and then the middle finger, and then it was game over. But superb fight.
I think a lot of recreational climbers can relate to that, just the fingers peeling off one by one as you get super pumped. Those scores will update. There we go, it's Luce Duardi 38 plus, a couple more moves in the bag ahead of Oceana Mackenzie with 36 plus. It's looking good here on the right hand side, then on the yellow route, the men's semi-final.
Yeah, Victor gets a heel hook. He's out of the groove section where we saw Leto fall, and he's into the big volumes above, and it gets physical here. It gets very physical. He's coming up for that 34 plus move, but you go off these round volumes onto tiny crimps stuck onto the outside of those red triangular holes.
Victor looking super comfortable all of a sudden, just takes a look back, takes it all in, just tries to take his mind off of the route for a second, struggles with the clip though.
Yeah, he's not in the most comfortable position actually on a bent arm, not a great volume, but he's getting something of a rest, getting something back in the arms. Clearly he's swapped hands a couple of times.
I mean, he's obviously comfortable there, but you have to ask yourself, is that the best possible position for a rest? Obviously the route setters don't offer many on these routes. Will it have been an efficient rest? Time's going to tell us. He starts fighting through this next section then. Victor putting in a good fight. A lot of support for him in the crowd. One by one, fighting his way through these moves. Really pumped now, and took the rest. Managed to get 4 more moves in the bank before he fell off. That was a good burn.
Joelle Niederberger of Switzerland, there she is. Onto the women's route. Can have another look at that now. So landed the right hand, left foot secure. It's this move, it's just a slap with the left hand. It is a tiny hold they're going for, and it's not quite as positive as it might look. So Andrej Slezak of the Czech Republic will be out next. Already that's the 9th climber. And the women's still on our 7th climber. Men have been getting through very quickly. Semi-final beginning to feel like it's disappearing already here in Innsbruck. Of course, over the last 2 days we've had the qualifying rounds going on for these semi-finals.
So that burn there has actually put Victor into current first position, so that was a really good fight for him. Put himself a couple of moves ahead of, put himself a couple ahead of the American Connor Herson. So Victor Bunrund from Canada, 36 plus, currently leading the way in the men's as we concentrate on the women's.
IFSC photographer Eddie just gone past us in our commentary tower. That sounds very grand. We only inhabit one floor of the tower. They haven't built anything too special for us. But great view of the lead wall here, and Eddie just been shooting on the floor above us. Now heads down to find a new position. Don't forget to check out the IFSC Facebook page to have a look at those photos later on. So Joelle Niederberger on the women's route, just a feet cut off. She's not too far now off that huge round volume on the left of the arête, which there it is, which is marked where we've seen the climbers really setting new high points, and that unfortunately won't be a new high point for Joelle.
That's where we saw that the left-hand hold that she fell off there. Maybe we'll get to see that again, but that was where Luz Duardi managed to factor in a rest before heading through that next section. That really helped to push to the top of the leaderboard, currently with 38 plus. So yeah, Joelle Niederberger just struggling through that section, just seemed to power out, and that seems to be the first section on this women's semi-final route that is a real splitter, and it's kind of the first real section where we're going to start to see the athletes fall.
Over in the men's competition, Victor of Canada, he did set the new high point, 36 plus, so we have broken through that 34 plus, but still 3 climbers tied there in a joint second place as it stands. What can Victor do? A couple of good climbers from Czech Republic, I seem to remember.
Yeah, some guy called Adam Ondra just last week set what could be the world's first 9C. Nice. 9C, it's a staggering number. And yeah, to have people like Adam represent your country, I'm sure that would be a great thing to have on your team, great support. And Andre, then maybe he is the next Adam Ondra. Let's see, but Adam Ondra by this age had already climbed multiple 9As. Incredible performance. Some of these young athletes then are also absolutely awesome on the rock outside. Just some of the results that you're seeing is just incredible. Just, you know, born in 2002 or 2003 and just seeing big numbers getting crushed outside already. Andre then on the right hand side at the men's route, starting to struggle, starting to blow the cheeks. This is where we saw Canadian athlete Victor starting to have a bit of a rest.
Ali Nishi, the USA, is on the women's route, bottom right of your screen.
So will Andre take the rest as the previous athlete does? It looks like he's starting to fight really through here.
Yeah, he's obviously whatever they have in the water in the Czech Republic makes you climb fast, because he's not wasting any time here, like his famous compatriot Adam Ondra. He's onto the crimps on the red triangular holds. Now he's up with the right hand, and he is off and looks frustrated.
He'll be off. That would just be 2 moves off the high point set by Canadian Victor. Let's have another look. It really started to strain. You do wonder what they're starting to think at this stage. You think just try and fight for every move.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, you could see the fatigue coming. He kind of slapped that right foot, and it took a bit of repositioning before he put it on the hold. He precision of the footwork had just started to go there.
I think that's what we're all feeling when you start to get pumped. You know, we've all been there. You're super pumped. Everything starts to fall to pieces. The legs go, the arms go, and the mind goes as well. And the best athletes are the ones who can really deal with that pump and keep the technique and keep the route reading absolutely perfect, no matter how pumped they are. And you see that some of the legends, Austrian Jakob Schubert just seems to be able to, in the seniors, he gets pumped, but he can just keep it together. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, you hear climbers saying when we interview them afterwards, I was so pumped, and sometimes you think, really?
Yeah, didn't look at it.
Just to confirm there, Andre, that was 35 plus, so that moves him ahead of that group of 3 on 34 plus into second place. Focus on Ali on the women's route. Yeah, Luce Duardi still leading the way. I'm in the women's route. Oceana McKenzie still sitting in second. Top of your screen, you can see the results coming through. It's all Switzerland in third. So Diego Forbet of France on the men's route, 10th climber out of 26.
This is a sequence we started to mention is the first splitter really in terms of the results, and this is a good fight here from Ali. You can see she's super pumped. To be really impressive if she can push much further than this. We've seen her. This is the hard move. Oh, look at the flexibility there. That's where we saw. Oh, just about to say. That's where we've seen two athletes struggling to get their left foot. That was a very similar looking effort to Oceana, who's currently sitting in second. This just seems to be a huge stretch. Can you keep both feet on at the same time? Wasn't meant to be though. Ali initially had a good effort, but she was super pumped. You can see her actually crimping the sloper on the right hand. That's a theme you'll see a lot through the youth climbers. Not really enjoying the open handing holds, which the route setters have employed a lot of, and exactly for that reason, because they can't crimp them. And Ali gave it a good crimping, but yeah, that's a sign of true athlete being super pumped.
Diego Forbet. Meanwhile, you can hear shouts of Ali Ali from the crowd. French team as vast as ever at European events. Now heading towards the groove at mid-height, and just went for a readjustment and falls low on the route. That will not be a place in the final for him, that's for sure. Looks very disappointed with that. Let's have another look. He was just readjusting. I think he realised he got himself in trouble, tried to reset the right hand, and his feet just weren't solid enough.
So the conditions on these large volumes are really going to be a key part here. We have 26 climbers. There will be a cleaning break halfway through the competitions, but yeah, so many volumes. Friction really key, but conditions in terms of the temperature outside is absolutely perfect right now. Maybe it's getting a little bit warm, but that's not going to be the factor. I think it really was just a slip.
Naï Mignon of France in the women's route as we speak. Only just missed out on the bouldering final. 8th place for her earlier in the week. And wasting no time at all on this women's route, getting stuck straight in, flying up the lower moves. It is absolutely unrelentingly steep, this women's route. As I mentioned, they do have the steeper section of wall for their route on the left-hand side.
I imagine for the final later on, the route setters will switch it up and put them into the middle. We don't, there is a lot of routes on the wall at the moment, but they do tend to switch up the angles between the rounds. Fair competition for everybody, but generally the wall here is just steep, 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 and some bits are steeper than others. And yeah, the women on Youth B semi-final then on one of the steeper sections on the left-hand side.
It's a relatively simple shape, the wall here in Innsbruck. Gradually steepens until the upper third where it kicks back, but within that relatively simple shape, there's a lot of different panels and funny angles and little corners created. Lots for the route setters to play with.
I think that's the key. Some of the walls you see in Briançon and Chamonix, pretty much just free angles, but here they've adopted lots of different angles, but wide panels just to allow for all of these volumes. The key is to have a relatively simple wall, but with lots of options on it.
That's exactly what they've achieved here. Guy McNamee of Canada on the men's route, excuse me. Now Mignon, meanwhile, wasting absolutely no time on the women's route. Only missed out, I should add, on the bouldering final due to the number of attempts. 3 tops for her in the semi-finals.
This is really snaring those crimps now, starting to fight. Can really see her digging into the crimps. Looks composed, but slightly short of breath. She's starting to fight here. Goes for the half crimp on the right hand. Oh, struggles with the left foot again. Oh, that seems to be the real stopper on the women's route. That move, if you can get her through that, you seem to put yourself into a good position. But yeah, once again, struggled with the body tension, struggled to get the left foot out wide. And I think the difficulty with that move is you can't keep the right foot on. You have to release it. And they all seem to try and keep the right foot on for as long as possible. And that is, it's a huge hole, but there's not really anything on it for the feet. It's incredibly flat on the top. That seems to be part of the problem.
Yeah, huge hold, and none of it's any use, which is the worst type of hold. So, Canada, having had a good couple of days in the qualifying rounds. Guy just climbing at it, slightly slower pace than some of the climbers we've seen. But we haven't had any climbers timed out yet. So it's not necessarily a bad idea to climb that a bit slower.
Slight issue with the rope there all of a sudden. Not quite sure what happened there. I think his knot might have got tangled in the quick draw. Using his full reach, they're opting to go for a super high clipping position. Kind of good to get it in, but puts a lot of effort through the whole body just to try and strain up, reach tiptoes to get the clip. Manages to find a manufacture a pretty decent looking rest here off the right heel, which is not a good heel. A flat hold, sort of sloping crimp. He managed to get his heel on. It sets himself up for the next section then. He's about halfway up on the wall at the moment.
Sophia Kessel, as she is of Russia, onto the women's route, bottom right.
Guy just has that body shape of just super long limbs and are perfect for being a route climber. Really slight frame but long limbed, and he really seems to be absolutely perfect. This endurance style seems to have a very slow pace but bags and bags of endurance.
Yeah, calm as you like, resting on that yellow volume. Now begin to head out right. There's a triangular volume and then 2 rounded yellow volumes above it, and then you're out onto the left on those red triangular holds with the crimps attached.
And look at that flexibility, really using his long legs to his advantage there. Some of the earlier athletes had to fly over to that volume off of the lower left foot, but he manages to adopt another heel hook move. Really enjoying the heels, a completely straight legs. It's incredible flexibility.
Now you can see the red triangles. And again, a bit of an awkward place to clip from. Second time we've seen that from him. It makes it work slightly smoother this time.
It's a really good burn here. It just looks sort of like he was not in trouble from the beginning, but just takes this really methodical, slow approach and fires up now. Just comes up short. One of those climbers that we were saying earlier, Charlie, that he just seems to not look particularly pumped and then just fall off. But he seemed to look like that from the very beginning. It was a really interesting climb.
And you mentioned Jakob Schubert as a classic example of that. I think he'd be more than happy to be compared to Jakob. We could see it here. He went with the right hand. He just missed, just went slightly past the key part of the hold again. One of the things that goes when the pump kicks in is that accuracy and precision. Just went actually a bit too far. Had to drop onto the hold. And by then he was already on the way down.
So we have our first Russian in the female category. Sophia Kessel comes out to start her campaign.
We've only got 3 more climbers after Sophia before the mid-semi-final cleaning break in the men's competition. They're slightly further ahead. We've got 2 more climbers until we are midway through our semi-final here in Youth B. Don't forget, immediately following this, only I believe about a 15-minute break, we'll be on with the juniors for their semi-final, and then the top 8 of these Youth B climbers will be back this evening to climb in the Youth B final.
Opting to go straight out to the left hand and miss the upper sloper. Interesting method, manages to stick on somehow. Thought she was in big trouble there. Looking a little bit confused with the sequences here, but manages to take a moment just to compose herself, have a look up at the route. See, they did have a 6-minute observational period at the start of the competition, but that was a little while ago now.
Igor Bobrinev is out onto the men's route there, bottom right. Very tall for a climber of his age. She's just trying to suss out how to do this one, Sophia.
So
there she goes with the left.
You can see there from Sophia on the right hand hold, really dragging, we call dragging the hold, which is an open-handed, not locking into a crimp position at all. The little finger drops off. You see that a lot in the young competition climbers. I've talked to a lot of coaches about why this is. I really don't know, but just the way that they seem to front free fingers on a lot of the holds, and yeah, just comes up short there. Seems to get herself in a little bit of a sequence. Sort of sequencing trouble earlier on in the route, and that really seems to pay against her.
Igor here. Keep you up to date with how he's getting on. Currently just finding those moves slightly complicated on the lower section. He's not yet into the mid-height groove on the route. It's just above him now. While we were watching that replay there, he was just having a few problems trying to figure out which way around to go with the hands, but he's got himself back on track. Now he's into it. So this is the section where he begins to head out right, and then it's back left onto the red triangles. As ever in these semi-finals, you get to the stage where you really begin to learn the route.
Oh, just hovered the right hand there before committing to the move. He must have put an incredible amount of energy in the left hand, but really showed his lock-off strength. That was quite incredible, the way he just sort of hung there, looking at the next hold. Let's see if he's got anything left in the tank. No.
Yeah, it looked as if on that move he was slightly relying on his height, rather than trying to figure out how to do the move. And as you say, let's have another look. This is the fall at the end. By this stage, as you say, burned a lot of energy. Looked to me like he was really using his height rather than thinking that move through, and it cost him eventually. Maja Rudka of Poland onto the women's route. 11th climber out. 45 minutes into today's semi-final. As I say, juniors to follow, juniors being the oldest age category. This youth B category is the youngest, climbers born 2002-2003. Juniors out next, the oldest age category, 1998 or 1999 they were born.
Simone then had some good results in 2017. 8th in Imps, 11th and a 13th in Mitterdorf, all in the lead, so she's obviously pretty handy. Be looking to get into that, break into that top 10. She had 1/8 position, but yeah, definitely be looking to do a bit more than that this time round at the World Championships. So this is a different feel to a European Youth Cup. So it's got a lot more athletes from all around the world. But yeah, pretty handy climber from Poland. Don't see that many Polish athletes in the lead.
No, they're very strong in speed climbing, of course. And as you say, not so much in the... haven't seen as many in female lead. So Andrej Polak, Slovenia, onto the men's route. He is the 13th climber, so we're nearly midway through this men's semi-final. Seems to be flying by. We're less than 50 minutes in, and we're not far off the clean break. Would be nice to see a new high point just before the cleaning break begins. One of the few climbers we see actually climbing in glasses. Wasting no time here.
It's interesting talking about glasses. We were climbing with William Bosey from Team GB last week, and without his glasses he really couldn't see anything. And he does incredibly well to deal with that during his training, and the glasses really kind of something he has to consider along with everything else in his training.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make. I was on the pedalo where his glasses were, and he could only just find the pedalo. let alone his glasses. So certainly an added difficulty for climbers that don't have great eyesight. So Maya Rudka. Again, just struggling to keep the feet on through that change of angle on the blue volumes. And I was about to say she's only just got that hole, she doesn't have it.
That's a good burn, but that's where we're seeing a lot of the athletes drop. And we were talking about sort of Polish lead climbers, and the head route setter here, Tomasz Oleski, is actually from Poland. He's the head route setter of the routes, and what career he's had in the past, turning his hand to the route setting now. And let's just have another look then. This is where it gets so fierce. Hits it with the front three fingers on the left hand, but that hold and the one under the volume are both blocked, so you have to be quite precise. Slovenian athlete starting to strain on the right hand, and that was a well caught on the right hand. You see him shaking, but manages to compose himself, gets that decent right hand heel hook in that we saw Guy implementing.
Luce Duardi still leading the way in the women's competition, 38 plus for her, and Oceana McKenzie still in second on 36 plus. Nae Mignon, 36 for her, so let's see. And Ali Nishi, tied with her in third place in the women's competition.
There we can see what the climbers are up against. That takes you close to 2/3 of the way up the wall. Incredible facility here, as we mentioned once again, and a new centre, centre for the Austrian climbing team, and what a facility it is. See these athletes starting to fight now.
Yeah, Andre looked as if he was getting quite tired earlier on. He seems to have recovered slightly, but still, this is a hard section of moves, particularly when you're starting to get pumped. And again, he chooses to clip from what looks quite an awkward position, but at least it's done now, and he can power through, hopefully, the next couple of moves without having to worry about clipping. But you can just see the elbows are beginning to come out, shoulder blades sticking out, pump beginning to kick in, crosses through with the left hand. He'll try to go up with the right. Will he match and bump through? He will. He's getting plenty of encouragement, and you can see from his movements how hard he's having to fight. Still in the game and off just before the red triangles.
So just before he fell off there, I was going to say it's a pair of Slovenian athletes on the wall, and Team Slovenia obviously strong in the youth as well as in the senior. Incredibly strong national federation, Team Slovenia, which is incredible from such a small nation. Let's just have another look then. What went wrong? Just powering out on those pinchy slopers, and that's what the route setters have employed them for. It's really hard to get anything back when you're completely open-handed on those holds. You can't get the fingers locked over, or the thumb locked over the fingers in a conventional crimp fashion that can really save you in those situations.
Yeah, he was looking tired from a long way out, and you could tell it was just determination keeping him going. But eventually just ran out of steam, and that will be the cleaning break on the men's route. The men going slightly faster than the women at this stage. This is our 12th climber out, Maya. Make your way through the lower section of this women's route. Zoe Egli of Switzerland, who we saw in action earlier in the week in the bouldering, will be out next in the women's. But in the meantime, Maya on those huge round 360 volumes, just struggling to, it seems, find her rhythm.
Just seems to be struggling with the sequence here a little bit. Oh, finds a really good method through there, ends up matching the lower hold. That's good thinking there from the Slovenian. You wonder how much these young athletes are exposed to the legends of Team Slovenia like Mina Markovic and Janja Garnbret. I wonder how much coaching they maybe can receive from those other athletes who've done so well in the seniors.
Yeah, hard to believe, in fact, that Janja Garnbret could actually be competing here in Innsbruck. She's just opting not to. Extraordinary. Now she's back on track. As I say, just seems to be struggling to find that rhythm, that sequence. And it can throw you a bit mentally if you just read a route slightly wrong. It's something we've seen happening in the seniors as well. Just need to get your head into the game, and she seems to have certainly done that now, and she is very firmly back on track. Hopefully hasn't burned too much time lower down. MC implores the crowd to give her some support. And now she's really flying, up with the left hand. Just trying to set herself on that huge volume on the left-hand side of the arête.
Looking pumped inside though, manages to locate the bolt hole for the left-hand thumb there. That's good tactics. Good way of decreasing the size of the pinch for the left hand. Really drills it in there. That can be a total lifeline sometimes. Oh! Thought she was in trouble with the rope there for a second, but fires out to the right hand, came up short, got herself tangled in the rope a little bit on the way off. It was a good burn up to that point, but Maya really seemed to power out very quickly and ends her campaign quite a way off the current high point.
Let's have another look. As you say, she cleverly made that pinch a bit smaller, but once she went with the right, as soon as it didn't work, there was no coming back, and you can see the men's route in the background being clean there.
Just having a look over at the route just off of our commentary position here to see if she had any other options for her feet there, but I think they were in the right place. But it's a real momentum move with the hips across to the right hand side to get the distance, and I would say she's about average for the size of the group in terms of her height. Just came up short.
And you can see there Luce Duardi currently leading the way, Shiana McKenzie currently in second place, and Nai Mignon and Ali Nishi in third and fourth. So we've had 12 climbers in the women's competition, 13 in the men. Victor Bouldering, leading the way. First place 36 plus for him. We haven't seen the last dozen or so moves in either men's or women's competitions. Plenty still to come.
Yeah, I was going to say, these routes are massive, absolutely massive here, and we've not seen anybody really up towards the top of the route. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the later on athletes to see if we can start pushing for a high point or a top. The top would be incredible, and I'm sure that, it's quite a large crowd here, really, considering Youth B semi-finals quite early on. They come out to enjoy some half-decent weather, enjoy the competition. And speaking to some of the athletes in the climbing centre just inside, they're saying they're trying to train in between the climbers coming out. So they all come out to support the fellow athletes. You can actually see in the crowd as Ashima Shiriashi sitting next to Yuji Hirayama, a pair of legends next to each other. One generation looking after the other. Not sure who's more inspired by whom.
Here's Zoe Egli of Switzerland. A couple of tops for her in the bouldering semi-final, ended up finishing 18th. She'll be the last climber out before the cleaning break on the women's. So right now she has the undivided attention of us and the Innsbruck crowd. And so far, a very smooth attempt. She's really getting up to that section of the route now where it starts to get fairly unrelenting. Just above our camera shot there is the big yellow volume where we just saw Maya power out. There it is. Zoe at this stage seems to have conserved energy slightly better, seems to be that bit fresher. As I mentioned earlier, Switzerland had a pretty successful Youth World Championship so far, and we've got plenty of hopefuls in the various age categories in the lead. She chooses not to clip and instead power through.
That's where we lost the previous Slovenian athlete, Maya. She seemed to take no hesitation through that move at all. We saw Maya resting out on the left-hand arête where currently her left heel hook is. No hesitation at all. Zoe Egler then starting to fight. She did come third in the European Youth Club in Mitzdorf in Austria, also in 2017. Oh, again, another climber falling up, going for the left hand or around that volume section, seeing a lot of athletes struggling with that. That is the 13th athlete, so we're halfway through on the women's competition. They will take a cleaning break. Men's cleaning break is done and dusted. Only clean the bottom half of the route, realistically, because that's as far as the climbers have got. So the men's cleaning break's over, and we can continue the competition.
Yeah, Noe Muto is out. There he is. Couldn't have timed that much better, the men and the women together. Got that pretty spot on so that we've never had an empty wall. So into the second half of this men's semi-final. As ever, we're looking for 8 climbers to go through, and the final for this age category, the Youth B, will be this evening, 8 p.m. Innsbruck time. No, smooth, concise and efficient so far. It's all about lead, by the way, today and tomorrow. Tomorrow we have one semi-final, that is Youth A, the middle-aged category. And then we will have 2 lead finals for you as well tomorrow. Youth A followed by juniors. 7 o'clock for the Youth A, 8:30 for the juniors. And today it's Youth B that we're currently watching, and then juniors will follow at 3 p.m. for their semi-final, and this Youth B category that they're currently watching will have their finals at 8 p.m. So lots of lead climbing coming up all day today and tomorrow, and then wow, what a weekend we've got.
Really impressed so far in this competition. The youngest category here at the World Youth Championships. Just the route reading ability of these young athletes really seems to have stepped up in the last few years. They just seem to have absolutely dialed on the route read from the observational period. They come out, waste no time, get on the wall, and really not struggling with the sequences here, and just seem to find and compose themselves with great technique all the way through the route. And you know, the years have passed where the younger climbers really struggled with the route read, but they seem to be so wise to this route setting, especially on these big volumes. They're not that easy to read necessarily. And so yeah, really impressive show from the youth.
Yeah, Noe, at this stage I have to say, looking perhaps the best of any climber we've seen up until here. Looked essentially untroubled by any of the moves, but this is where this men's route gets pretty brutal.
Really controlled out to the right hand. We've seen a few athletes falling off that move. No such issues for Noe then. Before heading into the upper section, then this is one of the sections where you can take a slight breather, but Noe choosing not to. Takes on a bit of chalk though, and heads straight out. And as Charlie said, Noe looking super composed so far. This is really looking good through this section of red volumes. Quite basic moves here, but powering out a little bit. Opts to match. Oh, hits the next hold, but comes up short. Another interesting climb there. Just looks so solid, and came off. Let's have another look. You can see he's skittering his feet a little bit, looking for the options. Just seems to hit the hold, but didn't find the right bit. That hold is not good on that next volume. It's a good hold if it was around the other way, but that hole's been screwed on upside down in a very steep section of the wall. You can see it there, top of your just middle and right of the screen. Top of the screen, we are focusing on the left hand side. There's currently a route setter up there. See one of the route setters cleaning the wall up on the left hand side then. And we can see that's the women's route on the left, and we have the men's route on the right hand side. That's pretty much 2/3 of the wall you can see there. We're not seeing any climbers get much further than that at this stage. We have a few climbers still to go.
So just a slight delay here in Innsbruck, but Davide Marco Colombo will be out very shortly onto the men's route. Another man that had a good day in the Youth B bouldering earlier in the week. 3 tops for him, only missed out by virtue of attempts on a final place in the bouldering, and finishing the top half of the qualifiers in the lead.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next climber is Mr. Colombo.
Women's cleaning break is now over. The route's been cleaned. So we will be able to get underway, and Daria Fomanova will be out very shortly onto the women's route. Once again, have 2 climbers out on the stage here in Innsbruck.
So David Marco Colombo from Italy then chasing down Victor Bunderund from Canada with 36 plus. Results looking pretty good so far. It's Andrei Slevak from Czech Republic 35 plus, and a whole raft of climbers on 34 plus. So we're into the top half of the semi-finals here then in Innsbruck for the Youth B World Championships. Have a look there, that's what he's chasing down. It's Victor Bouldering currently sitting in first position.
Yeah, and Luce Duardi, who was out in 6th place into the semi-final, still currently leading the way. Marco Colombo, Team Italy, winner of 2 European Youth Cups in bouldering already this year. Slightly disappointed not to have made the final here earlier in the week, but he can make the lead final. Already had a 6th place, excuse me, in the European Youth Lead Cup as well. Definitely a climber worth keeping an eye on. Much taller than many of the climbers in this age category, to the point where the route setters are trying to design these routes for relatively small climbers, and David is pretty tall by any measure, especially for a Youth B climber. I wonder if it might actually count against him. We shall see. Doing the moves slightly differently, again perhaps due to his height, but we've seen climbers lunging for that right hand and he can just reach it with bent arms and bent legs. So we seem to have been having this debate a lot recently, but some of the moves will be easier and some of them will be harder.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw the American climber earlier, I think it was Connor Herson, so small compared to the Italian here, and it's just staggering the height difference, just 2 years difference in terms of the year of birth. But yeah, it's just the youth, they really seem to be all shapes and sizes, and that's what the route setters are up against. It's just making a universal challenge. That's really the key, making the same difficulty for all of them. But as Charlie said, it's never that easy, and it's win some you lose some in terms of height and body shape.
Daria Furmanova of Russia, 6th in the bouldering, made the final and got a couple of tops in it. She's on the women's route, bottom right. You can see now David really starting to fight. Getting plenty of encouragement. Italian's vocal as ever. Clips once again from a quite uncomfortable looking position, and now he rests.
That's where the training's really going to kick in, when you've given it absolutely everything to get to that stage, and you can just take a moment and try and get some recovery in the forearms. That's what a lot of these athletes will train for, this exact situation. So hopefully David Marco Colombo then has done that training. Hopefully he's done what he needs to do, opts to go up with the right hand. We've seen other climbers go up with the left and match. Takes the match now, just moves his foot down, sort of slides the left foot down the volume into this tough, powerful section then, and out of there. Yeah, really powered out a little bit early, a couple of moves down on the volumes. Just have another look then. Really hard off the shoulder and then firing up. Seen a couple of climbers hit very similar to that. Hold is off to the left and they seem to drag down the right hand side of the volume.
Here's Daria Furmanova. There's the big yellow volume. We've seen some climbers rest, some powering straight through. She clips early and looks like she might just carry on. No, she chooses to pause and then get straight on with it. Quick shake of the right hand, and it was on and upwards. And you can see a couple of meters above and left of that big round yellow volume where climbers have been trying to heel hook, and again lands only 3 fingers on that. We've seen that method of taking that hole cause a few problems, but she made it work. Pure finger strength, and now she's onto slope is immediately to the right of that big round yellow volume, where, as I say, she'll try, you would presume from what we've seen from the other climbers, she will try to heel hook, but it's not especially positive. She tries just the toe, and again trying to get anything out of that left foot on that big round volume, causing all sorts of problems.
Such an oddly shaped foothold, really. It's so weird. It's really hard for them to know what to do with it, and they try and sort of fling the foot round to it to latch onto it with something, but the way it's shaped, it just doesn't really offer you anything. You've really got to go controlled and hook right round the back of it, which is obviously slightly further, which means you need to be stronger in the arms and need to be up slightly higher on the wall before you commit to that left foot.
Niccolo Balducci Italy out now, second Italian climber in a row. Just seen David Marco Colombo. He's climbing quickly at this stage, Nicolo. In the women's competition, Elisaveta Trocchina will be out next, also of Russia. So it's Italy, Italy, Russia, Russia. A bit like some of the speed climbing competitions we've seen. Already had a youth world champion at this championships here in Innsbruck, Italy. Philip Schenk, crowned earlier in the week. I've just seen him down in the crowd actually cheering on his compatriots. Been a real community feel here in Innsbruck. It's been a wonderful event. It's still a long way to go, and as I say, very exciting weekend coming up with the Olympic format being used. Elisaveta Trocchina, there she is on the small screen, bottom right. Just bring you up to keep you up to date with the scores. Luce Duardi still leading the way. Women's competition 38 plus. Oceana Mackenzie still in second, 36 plus. They were set relatively early on, those two high points, and they're currently holding steady. Victor Bouldering of Canada, 36 plus in the men's, currently leading the way. This is our 16th climber out in the men's competition, 14th in the women, 15th in the women.
We actually seem to see that relatively often in the lead climbing competitions, in the junior and in the senior. It's climbers coming out early, setting quite good high points. Time will tell whether it will be enough, with, like Charlie said, 10 or so athletes still to come. But yeah, it's not uncommon to see people come out earlier on, making really good progress on the routes. And I do wonder if that's to do with the pressure of coming out, early on, not had a great qualifiers, or you're out to redeem yourself, or what it is that makes those high points. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Plenty of encouragement here. Nicolo looking powerful through these crims, just missed that left hand, and he actually had time to reset it, but not long enough to reset and get solid on it.
Exactly the same point as we lost the previous athlete, David Marco Colombo. So Nicolo also fooling the two Italians, dropping on the same spot. Will Colin Duffy from Team USA be able to do any better? Let's have another look what happened then.
So he went up with the left hand, missed, reset. So he misses, resets, but he just had to get it first time.
Yeah, we were talking about that hold earlier, just how bad it is. It's sort of a slopey edge at best. It's incredible level of difficulty here in the Youth B competition. I'd love to get up there myself and have a feel of these routes. It's just staggeringly difficult. Maybe we'll have an opportunity, Charlie, in between the 15 minutes rest in between the two semi-final rounds. Quick burn on the routes.
Yeah, do the first move, fall off. Do the first move of the women's route, fall off, I'd imagine. Well, as I say, I've blown my finger out, so I've now got a great excuse. Should keep me going right through to Christmas for excuses, actually. The next few months are sorted for me.
30 years young at the age of climbers under 16.
So Elisaveta Trocchina cruising at this stage, but we've seen it with quite a few climbers. They've got to this big yellow volume on the left-hand side of the arete that's for the hands, and then a few moves that separate that from the big yellow volume for the feet, the one above it. We've had all sorts of problems. Colin Duffy, meanwhile, he's out. Team USA.
Elisaveta then was looking good, but struggled up with the right hand. Never really seemed to find a good rhythm on that route. Powered out, ends the competition for her. Won't be enough to get through to finals. That'll be the end of the leading for her. The World Championships here. I'm sure she's had a great week nonetheless. Colin Duffy then just looking at all the options for the hills. Another incredibly short member of the Team USA squad. Dropping into these positions nicely though. It's actually interesting talking to the route setters. They do consider the heights quite a lot, and they do check in with the coaches and the sort of heads of the team to see what size athletes they've got, and if they've managed to reflect after the qualification round, reflect on the size of the athletes to make sure there's not going to be any moves that are going to shut down the more you know, right at the beginning of the route or anything like that. It's something they really take into account.
I talked about it a lot last week, earlier on in the week, and last weekend actually. The route setters have got such a hard job because they just don't really know these climbers. You can have a look at their results and you might be able to find some footage of them climbing, but they don't know them like they know the senior athletes or even the climbers in the junior and some of the youth A category. But in the youth B, most of these climbers are essentially an unknown quantity to the route setters, and they've got to firstly find the level, find something that's not fair. So, excuse me, find something that is fair for taller and smaller climbers. Very difficult job for the route setters. The key thing that they want to achieve from the semi-final, much as they want to put on a good show and give the climbers a route they'll enjoy, the key thing they want is 8 climbers clearly better than those below them to progress to the final. They don't want split results.
I've just seen over the right of us here in the commentary position, a lot of members of Team USA are coming out of the bouldering wall where they're training to watch Emily Phillips, the young phenomenon that is Emily Phillips from Great Britain. Some great results this year, made podiums in bouldering, and she's doing staggeringly well in the lead as well. She really seems to have put in an incredible turn in the last few years, of being setting for a few competitions that she's been a part of and been mind blown by her level. Trains out of Cardiff in Wales, and yeah, incredible athlete. So really looking forward to seeing Emily.
Colin Duffy, meanwhile, now going up to that left hand. We just saw Nicolo Balducci fall at this stage. Needs to be accurate. Is accurate. It's not a great hold. Now he's got a lunge to the right and he sticks it. Really nicely done from Colin Duffy. He's through onto the upper section of this route, the head wall here. That left hand, right hand, those two moves he's just done, so physical. Now he goes out again with the right onto the yellow volume. He's absolutely powering through this men's route. Slapped up with the left hand. Let's see what score that was.
By the reaction from the crowd, that's got to be a new high point. That was truly inspirational there from the American athlete. The way he stuck that right hand was so cool. Just fired off the right hand as he went to the slot. That next hold up is a slot. That was really impressive burn. Will it be enough then to surpass Victor Bundrand? Just waiting for our scores to update, as we get an opportunity to concentrate on Emily Phillips.
As Mike said, a name well worth keeping an eye on over the next couple of years. She's just heading up for the first of the key yellow volumes. So this is the one for the hands, there it is. Now we saw Maya earlier using that bolt hole to slightly reduce the size of the pinch. Emily Phillips chooses not to.
Uses the foothold as an intermediate to steady herself here. Seems to have stalled out a little bit here. She's had a look where the hold is on the right hand side, but you really got to use momentum here to get out to the right. See the fantastic backdrop here of Innsbruck, the mountains just slightly rising up behind. Emily also opts for the thumb catch, takes a rest here. We saw one of the early athletes in this position but struggling, and we've seen a lot of the previous athletes firing from this position, but Emily seems to set herself now. Here she goes out to the right. Oh, misses it once. Oh no, misses it again. Emily Phillips would have been expecting a lot more of that. I'm just looking to see the coach's reaction.
Just to confirm, by the way, Colin Duffy does take a clean lead there, 38 plus for him. Route setters in the men's competition will be watching slightly nervously because we currently have 5 climbers in fact, tied for 4th place on 34 plus. That's really something the route setters don't want. They want a clear separation of 8 climbers from the rest of the field, and as things stand they have a 5-way tie for 4th. They will be hoping some climbers can push through and do something about that.
Yeah, I think Colin Duffy then from Team USA has given us a good insight into the top of the route, and I think with 8 climbers, 7 after Anjay here, after him, I think we're going to see some people getting close to the top of this route, and I think that 34 plus will be outside of what it takes to get through to the finals, but let's see.
So, an edge of Slovenia. It's all Slovenia. Tija Fajvar, bottom right of your screen. All Slovenia on the wall right now. And Anej already looking like he's got a real fight on his hands here. Just perhaps doubting himself slightly, doubting the way he's read the route, and that is not the way to do it, unfortunately, and he does not look happy. He didn't look comfortable for a good 30 seconds before his fall there, just didn't seem like he ever quite found his rhythm, didn't quite trust his reading of the route.
Yeah, you see other athletes stayed lower off the left hand and got the clip off the right heel hook. And it just sailed past that move. It's a sure sign he was in a bit of trouble. Didn't get the clip and put himself in even more trouble, and he knew it, unfortunately. Kind of went for the next hold, but yeah, he was out of there.
Ray Kawamata is going to be out next. It's a name that will already be familiar to watchers of our Youth B bouldering coverage. He won that competition. He is already the Youth World Champion in bouldering for Youth B. Much expected of him in the lead as well. Just when you thought the Japanese talent tap might be slowing down its flow, afraid not. Letizia is on the lower section of the route, and there is Ray Kawamata, just mentioned him. Through a translator, I managed to have a bit of a chat with him after the bouldering final. Such a nice guy. Obviously always a bit tricky going through a translator, but so friendly, more than happy to help with all our interview requests and the various stuff he has to do with the media after he's won a competition. And there seems to be so many Japanese names to keep an eye out for, but Ray Kawamata, top of the list for me, from what we've seen in the Youth World Championship so far. He's very smooth at this stage. Letizia equally smooth on the women's. Has time to chalk up. There's the first of those yellow volumes. So already on the men's and the women's, with 10 climbers or so to go, we've got obvious landmarks on the routes where we know we can start to expect climbers to really struggle.
And this is where we saw Emily Phillips struggle. Didn't go straight away. Letizia does. Can't help but think that's what was missing in Emily Phillips' climb there. Really hesitated. She's not the first person to fall in there, but Letizia then looking really good up to this stage. Had some good results this year already in the bouldering and in the lead. Had a 5th in the European Youth Cup earlier on in the year. So fighting now, hits that with the 4 fingers, gets the crimp on. This is good effort. Now then, this is getting up to the real meat of the route. Only a couple of climbers have surpassed this position.
She's looking solid. Now this has proved to be the crux for many climbers, so how to use that big left round volume. Do you heel hook it? If you do, what do you do with the right foot? How do you cut the right foot off? She hasn't even looked over to the left yet. I'm assuming she's going to try and use the hold. I don't think there's any other way of doing it.
Really trying to get something back on those 2 holds, but they're certainly not resting jugs. We've seen a couple of athletes just trying to match them up, take on some chalk. You can see there's not really any options for the feet. That's why, as Charlie said, it's all about that oddly shaped left foot hold out onto the left arete.
And that was an awkward position to clip from. You could see how hard she was working, just staying on during the clip. And again, it's that how to use that big round yellow volume for the left foot that is causing so many of these climbers problems.
I thought she might have been in there for a second just as the left foot stuck. She just tried to put some force through it, but you could see the rubber just slipping on the texture of the hold. Tries to put some weight down, but at that stage the foot is above hip height, makes it incredibly difficult to put force through it.
Ray Kawamata here climbed so well in the Youth B final in the bouldering. How is his endurance? As it's looking right now, not too shabby, but this is a hard section of moves. He'll go through with the left hand to the first of those red triangular holes, then cross through the right, left again, and then he's got a big move out to the right. So it's left, right. Relatively straightforward moves. They're not massively complicated. extremely physical. Not a huge amount of route reading to do at this stage. This is just a case of horsepower.
That move across is actually quite interesting off the left foot. It's a huge volume, but it's really hard to put any weight through it. So some of the athletes have been standing in the scoop of the volume, some are standing on the top. Ray opting for the top, hits the left-hand hole. We've seen so many people struggle on. Does really well on that. Looks for the option here, looks to be in trouble. You can see him looking around at the quick draw, looking up at the next section of holes. And all of a sudden didn't quite know what to do with himself, whether to get the clip first or whether to go for the next hole. You can see the elbows up there, see the strain. Has one quick look across the draw, one look at the hole, goes and opts for the hole, but
that'd be second place. That'd be second place for him. We'll just confirm as it comes through, but it's definitely second highest we've seen climber.
Indiana Chapman then joins us in the women's campaign.
Yep. Fourth place for her in the bouldering. Stormed out of the blocks in that bouldering final a few nights ago. Absolutely flew out the blocks. Ended up fourth, just missed the podium, but did set a Canadian record with that fourth place. So she's coming onto this full of confidence. Yeah, joint second for Ray Kawamata, as I said. Tied with Victor Bouldering of Canada. And his compatriot Indiana Chapman is out on the women's route. Let's just have a quick look at the results. So Luce Duardi set that high point early on. She was a 6th climber out in the semi-final, and it still stands. Colin Duffy, meanwhile, he was out in 17th in the semi, and he's still holding the lead. Joint second, you can see there, Ray Kawamata. Just seen him climbing.
On the bottom right, have you seen it's Semen of Chinikov from Russia joins us for his campaign. Interesting you're saying, Charlie, that she's been competing in the bouldering already this week. I do wonder if that has any issues with fatigue as you go through the week. Lots of rounds of climbing. We've seen a lot of the athletes competing in all 3 disciplines, and it's the fitness that's going to be really interesting in these. The recovery between the rounds, what the setup is for the team to get the athletes recovered in preparation for the next rounds, and the ability to switch between bouldering and lead.
And it's going to be even more vital at the weekend when we have the combined format. That's one of the big unknowns, really, of this combined format, is how people cope with doing 3 disciplines in a day with minimal rest. But as you say, that it's been a busy week or so already in Innsbruck. Pretty packed schedule, not much opportunity for rest, especially if you're competing in multiple disciplines. Semenov Chinikov, second to Ray Kawamata in the bouldering final. Only missed out by virtue of attempts, was in the lead going into the last boulder, you might remember. So both these climbers we've already seen in a final here in Innsbruck. Are we going to see them in one this evening?
I mean, on the flip side of the coin of doing well in multiple disciplines, psychologically they'll be in a good position. You can't help but think going into another round of climbing, they've already had a good performance here, confidence is going to be up. So there's a few factors going into the multi-discipline here.
Yeah, and it's something when we just watch the World Cups, it's you might see climbers competing in 2 disciplines, but they'll be a week apart. And this added element of everything being on the same week really adds something. And Indiana Chapman out of this women's semi-final, that won't be enough for her. That is disappointing. Meanwhile, Semenov Chinikov, we'll just confirm Indiana's score when our scores update. That won't be enough for her.
Yeah, falling in a very similar position around move 28 plus, as many of the ladies have so far. 3 climbers as it stands other than that score already, so she'll probably add to that group.
Semenov Chinikov just tying himself in knots slightly here, needs to get out of this position. He's resting, but not really in a great rest position. He needs to find a way out of it without burning any more energy.
Uses his height to advantage on the 2 moves there, managed to avoid matching the volume going left hand again, and manages to keep his foot on as he goes to the right hand that he's currently on there. So one of the taller athletes here, Semen, but once again struggling with the sequences. We talked about it a little bit already through this round. Just looking for the different options, but fires up again and takes on some chalks. Takes a moment just to compose himself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Mike. 28 plus for Indiana Chapman. Leaves her down in joint 13th.
Representing Austria,
Julia Lutz out for Austria. There she is, bottom right. Just got a big cheer from the crowd in the venue MC. Semenov Chinnikov again tying himself in knots, and that won't be enough for the final. We've seen it with a couple of the climbers today. Perhaps a symptom of climbers without as much experience at high-end competition, but it just didn't look comfortable almost from move number one. Every now and then we see it in the Senior World Cup. A couple of incidents spring to mind over the past couple of seasons where his climbers walked out and just not quite looked themselves almost as soon as they've got on the wall, but it's happened a couple of times in this semi-final, and Semenov Chinnikov, the latest climber to befall that fate.
I mean, you do wonder with the Russian team. I'm not 100% sure, as most people are, as to exactly what the Russians have got in terms of their setup for training. You know, I'm sure it's vastly different to what the Austrians have here. We talked to one of the speed climbers at the end of Arco saying he has to travel 3.5 hours to his nearest speed training wall from his house, and he took away the gold. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to know exactly what the Russian setup is for training. You know, the amount of millions of pounds or euros they've spent here in Austria on this facility, there's nothing else like it in the world. Whether the other nations can catch up and find themselves a nice stack of cash and a huge space to build an incredible facility to try and catch up with the Austrians, and I think this is the future of the training facilities. As we have Hamish MacArthur from GB out, trains at the Red Goat climbing wall in Britain, further up north. Speaking to his coach earlier, Ian, saying he hopes to see a finals for Hamish. He said he'd be upset if Hamish didn't get into the final, so Ian Dunn, his coach, obviously quite optimistic. As we concentrate on Julia then, this is the move. We've seen a few struggle, and this is the 28 plus move.
Yeah, we're already at the stage, by the way, where we can confirm some of your finalists. Hamish MacArthur is the 6th to last climber out, so that means that the top two, even at this stage, guaranteed their place in the final. That's Colin Duffy and Victor Bouldering of Canada. Ray Kawamata currently tied as well in second. And again, it's that move up with the right hand off that left hand volume, and that'll be another 28 plus.
It's a real trick move, that, because if you don't find the right position, the right way to move the hips to the right, you seem to stall out because you can't just pull yourself in. Let's have another look. If you just try and pull on the left arm, you can't make the distance. Seem to do okay. You use a huge flag outside on the left, up high on the wall. Really interesting move.
Yeah, that is another climber on 28 plus then. Julia Lotz joins that group. Indiana Chapman, Maya Massen and Emily Phillips and Elizaveta Turkina. Hamish MacArthur, meanwhile, as you mentioned, just coach high hopes of a final here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the best youth climbers of the world. She took third position.
Hamish MacArthur then 5th in Mitterdorf in the European Youth Cup. That's why the coach is expecting big things here. He has made finals before in the youth competitions. 5th in Imst as well. 4th in Uster in Switzerland. Really good showing from Hamish MacArthur here. He really seems to have found a steady pace. Wouldn't say it was slow or fast, but he's looking really strong.
Vanda Mitrokova, women's competition, the Slovakian, ready to climb.
Hamish opting for the left hand again sequence then, really steady so far. Looks it up for the clip, looks for the options. Really good on the hills. You can see the toes of the right hill just shaking there. Really tenuous footwork here from Hamish. Constantly looking around. You can see the head bobbing from left to right, looking at all the options, taking it all in, computing the different sequences. Hamish then takes an opportunity, straight arm on the volumes. That's the position you want to be in to take a rest. A really good close up. You can see what he's up against. You see how bad the footholds are through that next section. Hamish takes the right hand well. Nice work with the inside toe hook there off the right foot. Gets the foot swap there. A lot of work on the arms now through this volume section. Will he opt for the rest before heading into the red triangles that we've seen a couple of the other athletes do? Seems to be enjoying his climb at the moment. Hamish really seems to be taking it all in. Takes a bit of a rest. Shouts of come on coming from the GB coaches just behind us. Such a bad hold he goes out to with the left hand. Fires up now. Looks like in a bit of trouble. Digs in a little bit. Up to the bad left hand. Good burn from Hamish. We've seen a few athletes fall off there. Let's see where that puts him. Will it be enough to get through to the finals? It's hard to know. We wait for our results to update. We have another look up. You can see how bad these holds are. So steep this section. Really a basic section of power climbing. A lot of body tension required and some really, really bad sloping crimps.
Vanda Mitrokova. You might remember that name from the bouldering semi-finals last week. Almost made the top 10, just missed out. 11th place for her in the bouldering. Being made to work hard here in the women's lead. If you're just tuning in, Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley here in a now sunny and beautiful Innsbruck. Watching some of the best youth climbers in the world. Not a bad afternoon as they go.
So Hamish's score of 34 plus there, we just said it, but that's very similar to a lot of climbers. Just trying to count how many have also got 34 plus. It's actually 6 climbers all on the same score, currently in joint 5th, so the route setters will be panicking a little bit as we have only a few climbers left in the men's competition. See if they can get that split, otherwise it'll be a very long finals.
Yeah, they will not want that at all. What they're always aiming for is 8 climbers through. But now we watch Vanda Mitrokova. It's this move, this 28 plus move that stopped so many climbers up until this stage.
See the amount of power she had on offer there through that move. That was really impressive. And once again finding a rest where other climbers have struggled. Let's see if she's got it in the tank though for this upper section. We've seen a number of climbers get higher than this. It's really hard semi-finals routes here.
Ryo Nakui, meanwhile, bronze medalist in the bouldering earlier in the competition, is out on the men's route. Vanda seems to have a power to spare, but this now is the next move that's caused all sorts of problems. How to use this big round volume for the left foot.
Opts to rest and gets this quick draw. The last 2 clips she's made with completely bent arms, so she's found a better position to clip off the straight arms there. Not using too much power up whilst clipping. That's key to the route climbing. Oh, finds the left foot nicely. Sits on the hill. Does well to secure the left hand. This is looking good, but she's biting her lips a little bit. She's straining on this next section. It's so difficult. Oh, look at the power. Drops in with a drop knee off the right foot. This is impressive. Hits the left hand. Oh, that'll be really good. I'm quite sure that's close to a high point, if not the highest point on the route. She secures the left hand where the previous top place climber Luce Duardi, that was 38 plus for her, so she'll get 39 I believe, and we're going to wait for the scores to update. That was a really good burn, a really good fight.
Ryo Nakui of Japan. They've already had an excellent Youth World Championships. In a way, we'd expect nothing less. And another top young athlete coming through.
So they did give Vanda the plus on that move as well, so it's 39 plus, so she takes a lead. 39 plus for her, Luce Duardi 38 plus. Obviously those ladies will definitely be in the final later on tonight, so look forward to seeing them. And yeah, we're seeing a very hard semi-final round here.
Yeah, we've still got 6 women to come out, so only the top 2. Oh, Ryan Akui off relatively low on the men's route. We'll confirm the score in just a second. I was about to say only the top 2 women at this stage guaranteed their place in the final. We've still got 6 women to come, 4 men to come. And the route setters, as we've said, will be slightly nervously watching this men's competition, because unless all 4 men can get higher than 34 plus, we are going to have a very overstocked final.
So when climbers are tied going into the final, they do have to, well, from the semi-final I should say, they do have to take all the climbers through into the final.
So, as I say, they are, the route setters now absolutely reliant on all 4 remaining climbers beating that score.
Representing Belgium, Lucy Watillon. Runners-up of this season's league competition, the European Youth Cup, Bouldering.
Lucy Watillon of Belgium, wasting no time on the women's route. Thomas Podolán of Team Austria, another climber that we saw in the bouldering final earlier in the week. Really determined young climber Thomas Podolán, impressed a lot of people. Finished the final in 6th, but mindset, determination, all get a big tick from me. You look very impressive, certainly a climber to watch in the months and years to come. Be interesting to see how he gets on with the lead climbing.
So we have a look on the left-hand side then. Lucy Watillon had some great results this year in the lead. Managed to find 3 podiums already, 2 podiums, excuse me, in 2017. So it'd be really interesting to see how she gets on this route. We're obviously seeing a really stern semi-final round here in both the men's and the women's. Nobody challenging the top half of the route at all. Nobody troubling the scorers for the top few moves. The route set's really aiming for that separation in terms of making sure there is a result going into the finals, making sure it's difficult enough, make sure there's not too many tops, but at the same time overcook it and you get a lot of climbers on the same score, and that's what we've seen in the men's competition.
Yeah, Thomas Podolán I just mentioned. A lot of people interested to see how he can follow up his bouldering performance with the lead. He is, remember, he won the European Youth Cup in Dornbirn earlier this summer in the lead, so he's more than capable of making the final here, and the route setters will be watching him nervously. We always say such a difficult job. The theory, of course, of the route setters is that the route gets progressively harder and climbers fall off higher and higher, but you can't really make a route where it just gradually gets harder and harder. You just inevitably have hard moves in the middle of the route. You can't do it move by move, section by section. You do have crux moves, and that's what we're seeing here in this Youth B semi-final in Innsbruck.
I think one of the key things about these routes as well is just the amount of steep that they've got to deal with. They've got to deal with all sorts of different types of resistance, whether it's power endurance, straight endurance, or boulder endurance, and you see that with a lot of the volumes. A lot of the steep, just to concentrate our attention on Lucy Watillon. She's doing really well here. Like I said, she has made a couple of podiums this year already in the lead. Finds good heel hook rest where the other climbers just struggle through here. So this is where the top 2 climbers are currently sitting a couple of moves past this position. It's all about finding this next left foot. It's where the feet completely disappear. The options are only high and left on that big bolt-on hold you can see out on the left direct there. Looking really fresh here and finding a good opportunity to take on some chalk, take on some oxygen. Just have a look up, have a look at the next section, looks at the watch. This is good climbing, clever climbing from Lucy here.
Thomas Podolán, you can see him bottom right of your screen, being made to fight, and he will be disappointed with that. European Cup winner already in lead this season, boulder finalist in the Youth World Championship. And that does mean that we will have a large tie going into the final. We're going to have a lot of climbers through in Youth B here.
We turn our attention to Lucy. Oh, she did so well through that section. Incredible lock-off power. That will be enough to get through to the finals. And Lucy Bertillon puts on a really good burn. It's a great effort through that section. I thought she was going to go a bit further than that, to be honest. Let's have another look. The way that she locked off onto the previous move on the left hand was incredible. Fires up. That puts her in the same position. I think it's with Oceana Mackenzie. They'll double check the scores.
Yeah, interesting the precision involved in lead climbing. There's so many moves, and yet really she missed that left hand really only with the index finger, the pad of the index finger. It's tiny differences here.
Yeah, it was there, the same move as Luce Duardi, sorry. 38 plus. So
Yeah,
two climbers on 38 plus, sorry Charlie.
Yeah, I was going to say Oceana Mackenzie down 36 plus. It's getting tight. We want 8 climbers through. We're not going to have that. Certainly in the men's competition, and with 3 climbers tied in 6 in the women's, you suspect we might not have it in the women's either. I would argue this is the hardest age group to set for the setters, because you can have the biggest discrepancies in height, and as I mentioned earlier, the climbers are something of an unknown quantity to the route setters. They don't know that much about them, other than they might be able to find some results or watch some YouTube videos of them in action in other competitions. But it's the most difficult age group to set, just because you have so little information and such a big difference in the climbers' size and builds.
Yeah, I would say from my experience setting the youth competitions, the younger the category, the harder it is to set for, because they're furthest away from you in terms of your height, your finger size, limb size, and when you're trying to set a route, they know roughly the difficulty, but they won't be able to fit into the positions like these athletes can. They won't be able to fit into the shapes of the volumes. Their bodies don't fit into the gaps the same way as do. Example is, recently we tried to set for a youth competition. It was Youth E, which is the youngest category, which I think is 9 to 10 year olds. I'm a 6 foot plus route setter, and the route was supposed to be 7A, and we just couldn't do it. We just couldn't hold the holds. The holds were too small. We couldn't fit into any of the gaps between the holds. The route setters are more than capable of climbing 7A or above, but we just couldn't climb it, and the kids, 9-year-olds, absolutely crushed it. So it's so difficult for the route setters to fit and the shapes and their bodies into the positions that the youth have got to do here. And yeah, I wouldn't want to be that guy setting the world championships for the youth. But they can learn a lot between the rounds. They've got the opportunity to learn from this route here in the semi-finals. Obviously, it's been a very hard round. We've got a few climbers still to come out who've got the opportunity to get into the upper thirds of the routes. But yeah, the route setters are going to have to go away and have a hard think about what they need to do ready for the later round and the finals tonight.
Sander Waller is on the men's route. Saki Kikuchi on the women's, fresh from her bronze medal in the bouldering. Sander Waller, he made the semi-finals in the bouldering, 19th there. Saki Kikuchi had a really good final. 3rd place for her. Her compatriot and gold medalist in the bouldering, Futaba Ito, is still to come here in this lead semi-final. Futaba Ito, I have to say, was head and shoulders the best climber in that Youth B boulder final. What can she do in the lead? Sander Waller getting plenty of encouragement, as you'd expect. America well represented here in Innsbruck.
Saki on this next move then. This is where we've seen a lot of the athletes fall. Hits it well but has to fight hard, cuts loose, and as soon as you flick that left toe up, you see the face just relax. Composure just kicked in. Think, yep, that move's done, that's in the bag, I'll move on to the next one. Just really reset. That's really good climbing there from the Japanese athlete. Both climbers equal distance on the wall there, and that shot taking them both. Drops into a knee bar there. That's really good. Nice position. Great hip flexibility. Takes a bit of a rest for this next section then. Looks like she's got power to spare at the moment. Saki Kikuchi then starting to fight, takes on some chalk. This could be an opportunity for a high point here. Struggles with a clip.
Superb effort as well from Xander Waller on the men's route. We had Saki Kikuchi on the main screen. You might have been able to see bottom right there, Xander Waller.
Saki then gets I was just about to say, gets the left foot on really well. Hit the left foot all the way round on the left foot hard. Really, really good. And then just came off on the next move. Let's have another look at Xander then.
And he couldn't quite tell from that shot, but he certainly landed the right hand on the volume. Hard to say exactly how well, but he certainly made it. It looked like he just needed to readjust.
Yeah, he was just fighting the rotation a little bit. Dyno through to that next right hand. Feet come off, and just the position of the holds made him spin a little bit. Not really options for the right foot at that stage to stop the rotation, and he was out of there. But that was a good fight from Xander. 2 male athletes still to come out, and 4 left in the women's.
Alberto Gines Lopez, there he is. He'll be followed out. The final climber in the men's will be Hidemasa Nishida. Again, a name you may not have known a week ago, but probably do now if you've been watching our coverage. Another superb Japanese all-rounder still to come. Alberto Gines Lopez of Spain out. Camille Pouget of France on the women's route.
Alberto then, some staggering results this year. First in the European Youth Club in Mitterdorf. First for his category Youth B in the Bouldering in Sofia in Bulgaria. First also in the European Youth Cup in the Argentière Bouldering. Third, second, first, fourth, the list goes on. Incredible set of results through 2016 and 17.
Yeah, no, only missed out on the Youth B Bouldering final by 1 attempt. So a man with the calibre and even more dangerous for his rivals, a point to prove.
Yeah, I was just going to say, definitely a point to prove then. If he has taken away gold medals previously in the bouldering, missed out on the bouldering final, he's going to be out to redeem himself now on the routes.
So it already looking like we're going to have a, as I mentioned, an overstocked final, particularly in the men's route. Currently have 6 climbers tied on 6th place. So we're going to have an awful lot of climbers through to tonight's final. In the women's competition as well, we've got a 3-way tie for 6th place. We've been talking about the difficulties of the route setters. Be interesting. We'll try and grab a word with them before the finals and see what, if anything, they'd like to change ahead of the finals, or do they back their setting for the finals? Will they make some slight adjustments? We shall see. We'll try and grab a word with them before the finals. 8 p.m. tonight to watch the top 8. Well, in fact, it'll be a lot more than 8 this time, but the top climbers from this semi-final in action tonight in the final. Camille Pouget of France, she's on the left. Alberto Gines Lopez of Spain is on the right. He is our second to last climber. Camille is our 4th to last female climber.
We concentrate on Alberto then. Like we said, lots of wins for him in 2017 already. Can we see someone pushing towards the top of the route here? Seems to have found good composure here at the moment. We've seen a lot of climbers rest on this hole, but it gets really hard from this point onwards.
Just to confirm, Xander Waller, that was 37 plus. Moves him up into 2nd place. He'll climb tonight. It's USA 1st and 2nd right now in the men's side of this semi-final. Colin Duffy and Xander Waller leading the way. Camille Pouget of France looking to break into that top 8. As things stand, Luce Duardi is in joint 2nd place. So France already with at least 1 climber into the final. 3-way tie for 6th place in the women's competition.
So will we see Alberto redeem himself and get high up on this route then, looking to make amends from his ability not to get into the finals in the bouldering, but looking so strong through there, looking confident as well. Just look at the lock off, grits the teeth a little bit through that section where many climbers have fallen off. Hits the top of the red section now. This is a really good burn from the Spanish athlete, looking for the foot options.
And he's looking relatively composed as well. You can see he's having to work, but he's got a bit left in the tank. The right hand lands. He will be in the final tonight.
It's gone past the clip though. He's in a bit of trouble here because this next hold is blind. Oh, it's a really good effort. I think that'll put him into joint first position. We'll check the scores. Thought he was going to be on for a little bit further there. He seemed to hit the right hand really well, but couldn't find the right body position for the clip.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a 38 plus from him, tied with Colin Duffy. We'll wait to have it confirmed. Meanwhile, Camille Pouget
into a high point here. Yes, takes the lead. That's a really good effort. That'll take it to move 40 plus potentially. Pretty sure that's a high point there. A great effort from Camille. She'll definitely be in the finals tonight. That was a really good burn, and we had a couple of good efforts on the wall at the same time. Hard to know which one to focus on at once.
Yeah, Vando Mitchell-Kova did lead the way in the women's competition. Almost certainly been surpassed there. In the men's competition, 38 plus for Alberto. Yeah, didn't quite manage to pass Colin Duffy, but he matched him on 38 plus. So this is our last climber in the men's competition, Hidemasa Nishida. Here he is. Still waiting for Camille's score to come through in the women's. Camille Pouget, who was our last climber out. There it is, yes, a clean lead, 39.5 plus for her.
So Hidemasa coming out leading the pack from the qualification round. First climber I've seen wearing socks as well in his climbing shoes. Don't see that too often. Must be some lucky socks he's rocking. Seems to be working for him though.
Yeah, another climber who really stood out in the men's bouldering final in the Youth B earlier in the week. Managed to get a couple of tops there. And again, it was a tight final, that one. Hidemasa was absolutely up there for a place on the podium. Ended up just missing out on 4th place, but more than capable of making the final and doing well in the final here. Won the Youth B lead in the Asian Youth Championships in Singapore, and when you consider his competition, that's a pretty impressive achievement. Very trippy music being played from the DJ now, slightly surreal. Futaba Ito, Hidemasa's compatriot, is there. There she is, bottom right. Looks extraordinarily strong in the bouldering final. 4 tops. She was the only climber that managed 4 tops in that event. What a story it would be if she could add lead gold to bouldering gold. Don't bet against her. Qualified 3rd here for the semi-finals. And it's all Japan from now on out. Hidemasa Nishida, the last male climber, and the 3 female climbers remaining, including that lady on the bottom right of your screen, Futaba Ito, are all Japanese.
Yeah, Team Japan putting on a good showing here in the semi-finals. 7 of them made it through to the semi-finals. None of them outside of the top 10 in the men's or the women's category. So Team Japan showing force once again. And we've seen that throughout all of the stages of the competition here this weekend, and of course in the senior competition as well.
Yeah, I mentioned it at the very top of the show. Good spread of nationalities here in Innsbruck, but it's funny how you get towards the business end of the semi-final, Japan cropping up more and more and more. And we've been raving all week about this facility here in Innsbruck, but they're certainly not lacking in Japan. I've certainly never been to a bouldering hall like the one in Tokyo, the B-Pump gyms. My oh my, it's paying off. 2 of their climbers who we saw climbing earlier on in the week in the bouldering semi-final and final, Hidemasa Nishida and Futaba Ito, out on the wall now. Hidemasa Nishida just crossing through the right hand, just about makes it stick. Now he'll come through with the left, just setting himself, decides to clip first. Heel hook, and then places the toe, nicely done. Calm climbing from Hidemasa Nishida. And he's looking in control at this stage, but having to fight hard.
It's already enough to get him through to the finals. A couple more moves and he'll be into the high point, but struggling a bit. Yeah, you can see the left hand just opening up on the crimp. went from the crimp into the open-handed grip as he slowly lost power through the forearm, through the fingers. The hand opened up. We've all been there when climbing. It's not a good position to be in. Peels off the wall, but Hidemasa Nishida should have done enough. That will get him through to tonight's final. So we concentrate on Futaba Ito.
Yeah, she's 3 or 4 moves short of the big yellow volume for the hands. Let's just have a look at how Hidemasa Nishida finished his attempt.
You can see he was in the pinch there, and slowly the fingers started peeling. The thumb came off, went into the crimp. Big move out onto the right.
Futaba Ito now landed that first volume, the one for the hands. She's got a few moves to go now before she gets to the one that's for the feet, the big rounded one.
We've seen a few of the climbers fall off on that move, and the successful method seems to be an actual momentum swing of the right arm. So they sort of use the right arm to swing it back and then towards the hold. It helps give them the distance to secure that next right hand hold. And if you just try and do it statically, you seem to come up short. No such issues for the Asian youth champion then. Futaba looking so composed at the moment. Look at the confidence through that section. Really great climb so far for her.
Futaba Ito, meanwhile, no problem with the heel hook. She'll be in the final tonight. This will see her through, crosses through with the right hand, grabs the top of that volume, still looking very composed. That's a desperate move up with the left hand. She made it look easy. She's got another hard move now, though, and she is out of there, but she will be back on the wall this evening. Has a final look up, a shake of the head, as if to say, oh, well, probably realises actually, just if for no other reason, just because of the sheer difficulty of the route, that there won't have been many climbers higher than that. And you can see here, left hand was solid, but it's a poor right hand she's going for.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there, because obviously these athletes have been in the isolation zone. They don't know exactly what has happened, but she will know how strong she is compared to the other athletes. So she will know if she falls off, it's a good chance she's into the finals compared to her strength, in comparison.
So you can see there the men's results, and the issue is that we have a tie in 8th place, 34 plus. Watch all the way down. Let's have a look at the next 10, but a tie in 8th place means that we will take through Tim Booker, Connor Herson, Nicolo Balducci. We will have a large men's final this evening, and it goes all the way down there to 13th place. David Marco Colombo just misses out, but it'll be 13 climbers. The male youth B lead. Not ideal for the route setters. It's just minute miscalculations here and there. It means we have a heavy tie, and they almost, in inverted commas, got away with it. If that had been a tie in 9th place, it'd have been okay. Unfortunately for them, it's a tie in 8th.
So the final 2 female athletes to come then. It's Nasuki Tani, born 2003, top 3 athletes here in the semi-final, all from Team Japan.
Natsuki Tani, yep. I've been saying it a lot, but another climber who impressed in the bouldering final, took the silver medal. It was all Japan in the medals, Youth B bouldering. Futaba Ito, who we've just seen, took the win. This lady right there, Natsuki Tani, took the silver, and Saki Kikuchi, who we've already seen in action, took the bronze. So she's already claimed a silver medal in bouldering. What can she do in the lead? Second in the Asian Youth Championships in Singapore. Second in Innsbruck in the Youth World Championships bouldering. She's got a fight on her hands to make the final here. There's no gimme this women's route. There's some definite cruxes, but we've seen climbers fall before even reaching them.
Interesting to see that the currently in first position, Camille from France, has given a score of 39.5 plus, ahead of the 39 plus from the second position, Futaba and Vanda, which means that the route setters haven't scored a hold that Camille has used, so they have to renumber the route by giving it a 0.5 rather than just a 39 plus or 40. So she's used a hold in between. Doesn't matter either way though, because she's safely into the finals with sitting comfortably in first position with effectively half a new move above the previous two athletes. Maybe we'll see Natsuki Tani get to that position. We can see where that half move came into it, or the new hold.
Interestingly enough, we've also got a big tie in the women's competition. Currently in 9th place, move 36, but that is for 9th place. So the route setters, we may see 9 women through into this evening's final, but we won't see as many as we've got in the men. 13 men into the final, which is up to the first of the key yellow volumes. There you can see it. That was the men's route on the right. Now we focus entirely on the women on the left-hand side of the Innsbruck wall.
We've talked a lot about that move out right there. She actually showed incredible power through the shoulders to be able to go pretty much statically across. We're talking about the sort of this swinging of the right arm that a few of the earlier female athletes have adopted to get the momentum to go right, but she didn't need it. Bags of power through the shoulders, just locked it off and went easily out to the right. This was a really good burn here.
Gamma Gamma says the MC. Just trying to figure out, again, like we've seen so many climbers, how to use this red volume, yellow volume.
Nicely done there. Manages to sort of get a bit of a bicycle between the 2 feet, clamps it with the left foot and right foot. That was really, really impressive. Just seemed to have got the feet on the strange hold that is that left-hand hold, where other climbers struggle. This is an incredible show of force here from Natsuki.
Yeah, this will be enough. She'll be in the final. Doesn't need to worry from now on. Of course, she might almost certainly won't be aware of exactly where she needs to get to, but either way, she is flying here.
New high point here. This is a lead taken from Natsuki. Local MCs asked the crowd to give us some support because this is a great show right into the top section of the route now. The one she's gotten a foothold on, that's the 0.5 hold that Camille currently secures the second position with. But Natsuki then oceans above everybody else and still going. This is a great fight here. Team Japan showing great force once again. Into the top head wall.
Believe it or not, she's still actually got quite a lot of moves to go, which gives you an idea of how hard this middle to top section of the women's route has been, but she's cruising at this stage. She could jump off and she'd cruise into the final in at least second place, depending on what Mori could do. But she's going for the top and she's shaking out, and I have to say looking relatively controlled, but just one move too far. As we mentioned with Futaba Ito, I'm sure Natsuki Tani realised that she'd done enough by this stage. Let's have another look. Put the left foot up, right foot, just missed with the right hand. Didn't look as if she was giving that absolutely 100%, just gave it 90% just to see if she could do it, but she can happily save her energy. She'll cruise into the final.
You can see her just looking off to the side there, looking at the leaderboard. She knows that she's the leader of the competition going into the final with one climber still to go, so she's putting herself into a great position, and just the way she did it was a real show of force as well, real dominance over the other competitors. There you see it, 46 plus, oceans above the rest of the field. That was a really, really good effort.
So you can see it there, a tie for 8th place as things stand. The climbers will be watching very, very nervously. Katija Fashfar of Slovenia and Oceana McKenzie currently tied in 7th place according to our scores.
Mori then, the final competitor out for the Youth B semi-finals here for the Youth World Championships in Innsbruck. Last 3 climbers out in the women's have been from Team Japan. Let's see what Mori can do then. Can we see someone chase down that excellent effort from Natsuki Tani?
Yeah, Letitia Fashfar and Oceana McKenzie of Australia will be watching this nervously. My scores have just updated. They're currently tied for 8th place. So if Mori can pass their mark of 36 plus, she will go into the finals and they will end up in joint 9th rather than joint 8th. So they will be watching this very, very nervous. So you'd have to say, having qualified in first place, last out into the semi-final today, you would have to say the odds are on her taking their places in the final. But there are tricky moves all the way up this women's route. It only takes a slip, a slight miscalculation, a misread, an inaccuracy, and we could see a surprise here. Drum beat accompanying her as she climbs.
Interesting selection of music, I would say, this morning here in Innsbruck.
Yeah, at times the DJ's excelled himself, at times he hasn't, but you win some, you lose some. Mori on the women's route. She's the last climber out in this Youth B semi-final. You can see these moves, no pushover. When she gets up to that first of the yellow volumes, though, that we're really into the meat of it. And she's still 3 or 4 moves short. It'll be an hour shot any second now. We've just seen a very high point from Natsuki Tani. There is that yellow volume.
The crowd then replacing their rain umbrellas for sun umbrellas out here. It's really hotting up here as we move into the afternoon in Innsbruck for the next semi-final to come straight after this one. And the finals for this category later on tonight, so 3 rounds of competition here today. Another action-packed day at the World Youth Championships.
Certainly is. A few of the organisers and IFSC people looking a bit bleary-eyed. It's a huge event, this. Over 1,100 athletes registered right now. All eyes on one of them, Mori. Absolutely cruising at this stage. As I said, we've just seen a very high point of 46 plus from her compatriot, and she looks in complete control at this stage. This is where she can secure her place in the final.
Yeah, it's progression from this next hold that will put her securely through to the finals. Looks like she's, unless she has a slip on that big left foothold, she's looking very composed here. Here we go then. Opts to match the lower hold, gets the foot on nicely. That was really good work. Matches the better lower hold to secure the foot, then moves up to the right hand and into this next section. So easily into the final here, the final climber out. Mori opts for the wrap, then goes back to the crimp. It's just so strong into the left hand crimp. This is good work.
Very little sign of effort showing on her face. Now she begins to shake out, and I saw a small grimace. She heads out for this poor right volume, but she sticks it no problem. That hold is pretty terrible, and she had absolutely no trouble hanging on. She even manages to chalk up on it.
So it looks like it's Team Japan going head to head here like it's a final. It's Natsuki Tani who's leading the way, but Mori is going to be chasing her down. Neither of these athletes needed to go that high on the route. They obviously don't know that. They're just trying to put in their best performance to guarantee a final position. It's a great opportunity to see higher up on the route.
Yeah, we've barely seen this upper section of the route as she lunges to the right hand and makes it work. Just needs to get her legs back underneath the rope, untangle herself slightly. Nicely done. Clips, chalks up and goes again. Leads through with the left hand.
That right hand is actually exactly the same hold in the same position we saw on the men's route. The route sets know what that one feels like for sure, but this is a really good burn here from Mori.
Aiming for a new high point. Are we about to get one? She's just readjusting. You can see the top, not too far off there.
Still finding energy to drop down and chalk. Crowd actually are really appreciating this, putting on a good show for everybody who stuck around to watch the end of this Youth B semi-finals. Just look at the endurance she seems to have. You know, it shows that the route setters really know what they're doing. They've got the top athletes right at the top of the route here. Oh, finds a new high point. That's fine work. Keep fighting. Can we see a top? That'd be an incredible way to go out in the semi-finals. Just really digging deep here. This is a great effort. Looking around, looking for the options. The burn must be incredible now in the forearms. Goes for a big lock over. She's going to use so much energy here. I hope she's not doing too much almost. I hope she's not using all of her reserves that she's going to need later on in the finals. Oh, great flexibility now. Still thinking on her feet.
Yeah, you can't help wondering if she's using too much energy. We hope not. She doesn't actually seem like she's found the route particularly stressful, but fatigue surely kicking in, but she's been chalking up where others have been falling off. This is a massive high point. She won the qualifying round. She's going to top the semi-final round as well. She might even top the route here. The feet are in position. Just one more handhold. Chooses to bring the right foot underneath her. She's creeping that right hand up. Doesn't need this. This is all just bonus moves. It's all just ramming home her superiority. Mori has absolutely crushed this women's route. The cruxes haven't looked difficult. None of it's looked difficult. She's absolutely cruised it, and she's going to get the first top of this semi-final with the last climber out. She will be into the final very comfortably indeed. Thank you very much.
That was absolutely awesome. The incredible show of endurance, incredible show of route reading, just the technical skill that she's got to get through that. That really was an incredible performance, and what a way to finish the semi-final. Goes through with a top, the only top of the route, the final climber out. The absolute dream from the route setter's point of view on the women's route. Few troubles in the men's route, but we do have a result going through to tonight's final in the Youth B.
Yeah. Let's just get those results confirmed for you, but when we saw it, it was the last results we saw. I'm assuming they have been confirmed, is that we have a huge tie in the men's competition. In the women's competition, meanwhile, 4 Japanese climbers through into the top 8, including Futaba Ito, Natsuki Tani, Ai Mori, and Saki Kikuchi. Natija Fashva and Oceana McKenzie just missing out. And Indiana Chapman down there in 20th. What a superb semi-final. Zoe Egley in 16th, perhaps might have been hoping for better. Unfortunately won't make it. Emily Phillips down there in 23rd. Mike was talking about her, she misses out. And in the men's, you can see it there. The route setters almost got that top 8. If the tie had been for 9th, they might have just got away with it. But unfortunately, we have a tie in 8th place, and it goes all the way down to 13th. Colin Duffy topped the standings, so 38 plus, along with Alberto Gines Lopez. Hidemasa Nishida and Rei Kawamata also safely through, but it will be a very overstocked men's final this evening. You can see that tie goes all the way down to Noe Muto. Raine Nakui misses out, one of the big surprises. Ditto Thomas Podlan. Might have expected to see both them in the top 8. And you see there, Leto, the Netherlands, also missing out a climber, and a lot of people we're looking forward to seeing. So we now have the briefest of breaks. At 3 p.m. we'll be back with our next semi-final. That's the juniors, the oldest category represented here in Innsbruck. And then at 8 p.m. this evening we have the final from the athletes we've just seen, Youth B. We hope to see you for both of them. Thanks for watching.